This is the Tyra. Just getting ready, guys. Call to order. Welcome to Aurora's Committee of Adjustment meeting. The time is 7:12 p.m. on Thursday, December 12, 2024. I would like to call this Committee of Adjustment meeting to order. I will start by introducing the committee members and staff. I'm the committee chair. My name is David Muhango, and the remaining members are as follows. Jane Stevenson, vice chair. Chris Porcineri, Michael Visconti, and Julian Young. The town staff are Peter Pan, the secretary treasurer, and Antonio Greco, the senior planner. Land acknowledgement. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us work together into a better future. Tonight's meeting will now commence. Approval of agenda. I will now require a mover and a seconder. Julian is the mover. Michael is the seconder. All in favor? Motion carried. Declaration of interest. To the members, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? I can see heads shaking, so none. Confirmation of past minutes. I would like to have a mover and seconder. Michael is the mover. Julian the seconder. All in favor of the motion? Motion carried. Hearing of applications. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. It is also being conducted virtually and through the use of Zoom technology. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this correction should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available on the Town of Aurora website and through staff at the town's planning department. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions of tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form available through town staff. Applicants and agents will automatically be notified. For each application that will be considered tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the applications, and then the applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to make a presentation. However, one is not required. It is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information as received. Presentations and deputations are limited to 5 minutes as much as possible. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I will invite members of the public who have interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address and must provide this information to the Secretary Treasurer. Should you wish to obtain a copy of the notice of decision, please complete the appropriate form available through the Secretary Treasurer. Members of the public are reminded that text comments are not permitted during the meeting, and they will not be noted in any manner or at any time. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentations shall be made. If you require any technical assistance with your presentation, please let me know. If you wish to speak and are currently following this meeting on the YouTube feed, you will need to turn this feed off and join the live meeting, as there's a slight lag between the YouTube and live feed. Please ensure that all questions and all comments are directed through me as the chair, and if relevant, I will request the appropriate person to respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or comments should the committee feel that is appropriate. Now we'll start the review of applications. The first application before us is a minor variance at 47 Cassins Drive, and the file number is MV-2024-31. The application. The owner or applicant is requesting relief from the requirements of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to facilitate a rear addition to an existing detached dwelling. The following relief is being requested. A, Section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard of 25% of the lot depth, which is 11.43 meters. The applicant is proposing a one-story addition, covered porch and deck, which is 9.9 meters to the rear property line. Just note that this was changed from 9.8 later on after the report was this report was published. Number B, Section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard of 3 meters beyond the main rear wall of the adjacent dwelling. The applicant is proposing a one-story addition, covered porch and deck, which is 2.1 meters to the interior side property line. Again, this was changed from 1.4 meters. Sections number C, Section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters. The applicant is proposing a one addition, covered porch and deck, which is 1.4 meters to the interior side yard property line. Applicants stated reasons for not complying with the zoning bylaw. As stated on the application form, the applicant is seeking relief from the zoning bylaw to create enough livable space for a comfortable secondary unit and to create a covered entrance to the secondary dwelling. Public correspondence. There are no supporting letters and there are 3 letters of opposition. In conclusion, Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variances meet the 4 tenets of the Planning Act for granting of minor variances. There are a few conditions. One condition is actually shown in the staff's report, but some additional conditions came later on after the staff report, report was published, and our planning staff will talk about that later. And this is the application. Do we have? I think we have the applicant and the agent here with us, and if you could mention your name and address, and let me know if you want to speak or you want to make a presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Dana Evans. I am 209 Design. I live at 15905 Side Road 17 in Sunderland, Ontario. We would like to make a short presentation. I just want to elaborate on what we're doing. We're just building. So Lisa Duff is actually here as well. She's the homeowner, and she can answer any questions if I'm not able to answer them clearly. So we're asking for the 3 minor variances. We're trying to build a secondary suite for her mother who's trying to move in. She's just sold her home and is planning on staying there while and being cared for by her daughter. The setback off the back is a 25% relief, or 25% of the lot depth, but the side yard setbacks were really just to create a covered porch so that the mother can enter without going through the main house with a covered safe entrance. So that is what we're asking for. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, or Lisa will as well.
Okay. Maybe at this time, if I would ask Peter, Peter, would you be in a position of letting us know about these additional conditions which are not in the staff report? Before I ask for any public delegates.
Sure thing, Mr. Chair. Let me just pull it up right now. Through you, Mr. Chair. So we did receive some conditions after the report was published. Just wanted to make the applicant and the owners aware of these conditions. There are 5 conditions from our park staff. Condition 1, that the owner shall be required to provide an evaluation report prepared by a certified arborist. Then that report shall include an assessment of existing trees, identification of all trees injuries and tree removals, if any, identification of all tree protection measures, including recommendations on the mitigations of negative effects, provisions of monitoring of the site work through a series of site visits by the arborist or forester, a monetary evaluation in accordance with the town's tree compensation policy for all trees designated to be removed. Condition 2, the owner shall be required to provide a tree compensation and replanting plan in accordance to the town's tree compensation policy, should any trees be required to be removed. Number 3, that the owner shall agree to comply with the Aurora Tree Permit Bylaw. Number 4, the owner shall be required to provide financial securities based on the total value of the tree compensation evaluation. And number 5, all the above shall be included as terms and conditions in a letter of undertaking with the town. Lastly, we do have LSRCA comments that also came in. They don't have any comments or conditions, except for that they pay the review fee of $536, I believe. And that is all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Peter. So do we have any public delegates who would like to speak?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are 2 public delegations for tonight. I do have a Derek and a Liana.
Okay.
I will ask Derek to speak first.
Okay, maybe wait first. I can see Dana. You want to is something you want to speak
Yes,
about?
please. Sorry, I forgot to mention that in discussion with one of the neighbors, we have adjusted the site plan slightly. We've actually moved the building in where the just past the breezeway. We've moved the whole breezeway and that little chunk in 3 more feet to protect the trees and to to do all we can to protect the trees. We do have an arborist report that's being done right now, and that offset was recommended by the arborist as well. So that's what we have done. We've actually moved it back, and that's what we sent in just today. I don't know if you actually ended up getting a copy of it, but it didn't change any of our square footages or any of the other offsets that we were requesting. So
the one you're talking about is it an interior side yard, which used to be 1.4 meters, now is 2.1 meters?
No, it stayed the 1.4. We just pulled it back in the one section to protect the Norway maple that was the large Norway maple that was sort of on that fence line.
Okay, maybe we can wait later on when it comes to members of committee. They will have questions about that, and maybe if you have a drawing or Peter will show a drawing, you can show us what you mean so that it's clear for everybody.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now the public delegates ahead. You have got 1 or 2. Are they ready to speak?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do believe they are ready to speak. I would just ask them to unmute.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, so if you let us know your name and address, please.
Absolutely. My name is Derek Banks. I live next door at 49 Cousins Drive.
Okay, so do you want
are
to?
you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly. So
Okay,
your floor is yours.
My first comment is probably more general towards the town and the process of the Committee of Adjustment. I just wanted to make a comment that given the nature of variances, they are final and binding for life. I'm not sure that 10 or 14 days notice to neighbors that are immediately affected is enough. And I would suggest that the town and the council revisit that, especially when everybody's so concerned in these stable neighborhoods. 10 and 14 days may not catch everybody at home. Some people are off to Florida, for example, and may miss this whole process altogether. So they need to look at that, and maybe even they could consider sending the notices out by registered mail, and then they would have an idea, at least if everybody received them, and then everybody's on their own. And if they did not get a good response, maybe they could consider postponing the meeting. It's just so important because you're bending the rules. You're asking for variances on things that somebody decided were important. So that's my first comment, is the process of the timeline of these meetings and the understanding that the people surrounding them actually do get notified in time. Not only that they got notified, but some people don't understand this stuff. They need time to absorb it and make the call and find out what it really means to them and the neighbors. And it isn't just for them. These rules are set for life because, as we know, we're not the only people living in these houses. It's the people after us and the people after them, for dozens of years and generations. That's why these zoning rules are made. Okay, number 2, specifics with the rear yard setback of 25% of the length of the property is already very, very, very liberal. I don't know why it's so small, but given that it is only 25% of the lot, I don't think there should be any variance allowed on this 25% rear setback. And I recommend that the council talk about that. Somebody who's on a 100-foot deep lot, that's actually a small lot. Maybe it's helpful for them. But the bigger the lot, or the more average the lot, it's not as necessary, and it should not really be 25% rear yard setback. That's kind of crazy, and that's caused a bit of trouble in this neighborhood that we've seen already. So I certainly don't agree or recommend that their approval to have a variance on that be approved. There's lots of room for them to plan what they're doing without pushing the limit on that, for sure. Another comment for the town is the drawings that were sent in and have been stamped. They need to look at the stamping on these drawings. I'm not sure why Taylor Cole and the other woman stamped them with a stamp that says approved. That's a little misleading. People think that the drawings have been approved, but they're not approved. They've just been received, submitted, reviewed perhaps, but certainly not approved. That stamp should not be on there. That's I don't know where they came up with that. That's just very poor practice. The number 4 is the purpose of the larger interior setback is to give a little bit of relief to a neighbor if you're going to push back into your rear yard. And on the first drawings here, they certainly did not abide by that rule. And from what I hear tonight, it sounds like they're going to pull it back a little bit. Unfortunately, I think it's the tree that has helped this situation, not the neighbor. So that's nice to see that they've gone back to the, I believe it's the standard setback or close to the standard setback. But again, that's only started half the way back, I believe.
Just to let you know,
Yeah.
your time is up. I'll just give you maybe 20 seconds.
That's it.
Yeah, you have 5 minutes.
Also, okay, somebody should look up the definition of the second suite as well. It's not really to build a 59-foot long bungalow in the backyard. It's to provide a living space within a dwelling, a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom, and perhaps a separate building, but not to build a 1,200 square foot bungalow. I think it's overdevelopment for the property, and they're not really using the width of the property, which is wider than most. They're just plowing into the backyard, which doesn't make sense to me. They've got space above the garage, in the garage, to the west.
So
Lots of
thank you very much,
opportunities.
sir. You have gone now. It's now 6 minutes. We'll have other people also
6
maybe
minutes.
speak. Yeah.
6 minutes for the next 100 years. Thank you. I appreciate the time to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. The staff, there were some comments directed to you. Do you think you'll be able to respond to those?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I can definitely respond to some of those questions. As it pertains to the approved stamping on the drawings, that approved stamp is a stamp that our building department uses to ensure that the applicant has gone through the preliminary zoning review process. It's not a stamp that approves the development, but simply to notify planning that they have submitted the drawings appropriately and the same drawings are being used for the actual minor variance application. The approval or refusal of the application is tied to committee's decision tonight. So that's to clarify the stamping question. Yeah, up to you, Mr. Chair.
There was another comment, probably it's not something you can answer about the time, the 14 days, something maybe you can take back later on, the council. Yeah.
To you, Mr. Chair, the Planning Act actually requires minor variance applications to only be circulated 10 days before a meeting date. The town of Aurora proactively circulates the minor variances 14 days in advance. So we're actually adding an additional 4 days to what the Planning Act requires us to do. In terms of the delivery of the notices, we send out the notices to Canada Post. Unfortunately, due to their strike, their ongoing strike, we had to hand deliver the notices. but we do meet the Planning Act requirements for notice above and beyond what is actually required.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Dana, do you want to respond to some of the comments from the public delegate regarding your design and the setbacks?
We do, so our setbacks, we do have 30 feet, over 32 feet to the back fence there. We weren't trying to go very big. She's trying to keep it actually very minimal in size and space and in height. So we've kept the pitches down relatively low. I think we have 412, maybe even at 512 pitch on there. She's actually trying to get sort of a cute cottage look to the whole thing. She doesn't actually want it to be big and grand. In between the two spaces, because the length is also because in between the two spaces, we have a sunroom in between. And that's really just to create a transition space for the family to go in between. The addition really is only a master bedroom, a very small sort of kitchen, living room sort of space. That's really just for her desk. And it's just a 1 bedroom with a closet. It isn't actually like designed to be a very grand space by any means. So that sort of encompasses the actual design part of it. And it'll actually sit down slightly lower just because the grade does come up a bit. So in my design, it sort of shows it actually a little bit higher than it actually will be, because it will be all main floor level, so that if there was ever needed for a wheelchair accessible, we were trying to keep it as accessible as possible.
Okay, thank you, Dana. So do we have another delegate here, Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have another delegate, either Leanne or Ross Stegner.
Hello?
Hello, so if you would let us know your name and your address, please,
Yes.
before we start speaking.
Yep, Ross Steigner, address is 43 Cousins, the property directly west of the subject property. Yeah,
You can go ahead.
So just we wanted to reach out and just address some initial concerns we had, and kind of wanted to start off too by saying we were happy that some development is going on. It's nice to see something happen to that property. It clearly needs it, so it's good that we're getting that, and we're not totally against everything. We just want to make sure everything that's being done doesn't have a huge negative impact on our property. So we're excited for the development, but just want to make sure that we're not totally compromising our property in the process. So yeah, some of the issues we had were sightlines, because initially, and we've gone back and forth with the homeowner verbally, and she's been great and accommodating, and we had initially kind of put in everything just because a lot of the stuff that we had talked about was verbal, but I can see that they've made some last minute changes here, so that helps for sure. So yeah, our initial concerns were sightlines. The dwelling was going to be long and tight to basically our property. The biggest impact was going to be on our property, if any, and it looks like they've kicked it in a bit. We were, I guess, originally talking 8. It looks like they've come 7.4, so I guess we're pretty close to that. And then the other big piece for us is privacy, vegetation. My fear would be that with the new construction, we're just going to wipe out a lot of that vegetation that's in between properties, and there's a lot of vegetation that can't be replaced. Like, it's some pretty old, substantial vegetation, and it kind of staggers both property lines, and I would hate to see that go. So any measures possible to preserve that would be what we were looking for, and it seems like that was also addressed earlier as well. And then lastly was kind of privacy for us. We know there's a bank of windows that are facing in. The, I guess, northern portion of windows isn't a huge concern. The ones at the southern end of the addition, we had talked with the homeowner, and there was some back and forth there, just potentially changing those to transom windows or something up high, just so the windows aren't staring directly into our backyard. But yeah, like I said, there's been a bit of back and forth with a homeowner on that one too. Yeah, I think like I said, this was all kind of submitted we had submitted everything when it was all just verbal. It looks like they have made an effort to make some changes. So I just keep in mind, yeah, that our main concerns would be the privacy piece, so vegetation, and just our sight lines. So we don't want to be looking at a big brick wall right along our fence line. So I think that's where we kind of come from and where the point that we're standing on here. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for what we've got to say with that.
So, Dana, are you able to respond about trees or sightlines? How you think you have addressed those matters?
Yeah, we did pull it back. I moved it back that 3 feet, but because I was doing it quickly sort of today, I have to check with that tree offset. Like I said, we do have, she is getting an arborist report processed and everything, which will give us that exact number. So if anything, that, again, that same addition that I've slightly moved would move slightly further in. It doesn't change any of the roof or setbacks anywhere else. It just would push into the property just a tiny bit more to get to that 8 feet or whatever it is that specific number is the arborist needs to maintain that tree. Yeah, and then as for the windows, yeah, we did talk to the neighbor about the windows. I think they've sort of been a little bit back and forth about whether they're going to put up a privacy fence after anyway, so that might determine what sort of window styles we put in there, just for the just for air ventilation and stuff. But yeah, the mother actually doesn't mind if it's a transom at all. So if that becomes an issue, then we're more than happy to switch it out for a transom. And probably will do in the bedroom anyway, because it's just over the laundry room space, and she would prefer to have probably the privacy as well. The kitchen one might be, we'll talk about that one, but yeah, we're more than welcome to talk about those things for sure, and we have, so.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll ask committee members if they have any questions or comments. Any questions or comments? I can see Julian shaking his head. Michael, Chris?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I did have a few questions, but they've all been satisfied with the exchange back and forth. And it's great to see that the applicant and designer have been so collaborative with their neighbors. So it sounds like they're coming to a solution there.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I have one or two questions here. My first one, I think I already alluded at the beginning when you were explaining. Peter, are you able to show the revised drawing, the one we submitted later this afternoon? I just want to confirm those distances. I can see the 9.9 meters at the back, but what about the 2.1? Just to understand where it is for the sake of the committee members as well as the public. So Dana, if you are able to...
Yeah, I don't think there was any 2.1. It's always stayed the 1.4. So the sunroom just changed size a little. It got a little bit longer, and the breezeway got a little bit shorter, so that we could pull it all in and keep this sort of space. So it's the number that changed is that sort of 7.4 number to the lot line. So our arborist, we want to keep. From what our arborist was telling us on the phone, we want to keep 8 feet away from the trunk of that sort of big tree there. So I think this will have to get pulled down just a little bit more to protect that tree. But that's the number right there that we sort of changed. We just pulled that piece of the addition further into the center of the property.
So how much is it now? Shows 7 feet and the whatever inches.
Before,
I can't read.
Yeah, before it was that 4.7, like the 1.4. It was sort of 1.4 the whole way down.
But now, what will that be?
4.7 converts into, sorry about that. I didn't realize I missed.
Yeah, it's okay. Just the, okay. Because for the other drawing, what you did is you crowded the 1.4 meters where you are showing there, where you can see the cursor there.
Yeah,
one,
so,
the one to the right, the one to the right, yeah, that one there. That's the one which was clouded showing 1.4, which corresponds to what is in the staff report.
yeah, because
when-
we're still asking for that number. Yeah, we're still asking for the 1.4 because the addition is still 1.4 on that part of the house, which
Okay.
it lines up with that neighbor's house. So he doesn't have an issue with the windows and the building placement there per se, other than the tree protection. He didn't mind that part because his house is actually in line with that. So we don't run into any privacy sort of issues there.
So the 1.4, which you have changed to 2.1.
No,
which
there's
one
no
is-
2.1. I don't know where the 2.1 came from.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
the
there's-
2.1 is coming from the town staff report, zoning bylaw, with the
Sorry.
changes which you have. Okay.
Sorry. Oh,
Okay,
unless
so
7.4
understand.
equals, maybe 7.4 equals 2.1, but yeah, it still should stay the 1.4. Because it's
Okay.
still the addition behind the house would still be 1.4, yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping for the records that minor variance number B, I read as 2.1, so it's no longer going to be 2.1, it's still 1.4.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, members, just for you to know that. My other question is,
Sorry.
okay,
Am I able to speak on that? Sorry, just the neighbor here again. Just so I knew, I wanted some
okay,
clarity.
so you cannot just jump in, you have to ask,
Sorry.
you have to do a request. If
I
you
don't know
want
how this
to,
works.
and have to ask you to speak, sorry about that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's okay.
you want to speak, that's Derek?
Nope, that's Ross.
Oh, Rose, okay, can you go ahead then, please?
Yeah, sorry. So I just
No
wanted
problem,
to.
it's okay.
Yeah, no, it just and I just guess there's going to be a little bit. So they are getting the 1.4, like, and as she just mentioned, that's no issue for us on the northern portion there. But I just want to make sure that it is clarified and that it doesn't get confused that the 1.4 can carry down the whole way. Like, is there going to be a separation in the language there to? If it gets approved 1.4 for the side yard, which like I just said, we don't have an issue with by our dwelling, but I just don't want to make sure it's not 1.4 all the way down. And even if it's not for the current owner's plans, like just in future, I don't want that to be approved, essentially.
Okay, so thank you. Basically, you read my mind. I was going to ask you the town staff because 1.4 is showing on the right side there, but we got two 1.4s in the staff report. Probably same. I don't know whether it was a typo. The one on the left, according to Dana, that's a longer distance, and it's away from the tree. I'm just thinking about it. Maybe Peter or Anthony can help us here. Dana, can you tell us what is the distance there now? The one on the left there. If maybe Peter, can you have a cursor to show?
Yeah, so
that one there. Yeah.
yeah,
So
that
what?
7.4 is 2.2 meters.
See, 2.2,
2.2 or 2.1, that's where they got that 2.1 from. So,
okay.
but yeah.
But you are saying it's now going to be 2.4?
No, 2.2 or 2.1. So the 2.1 is just further down the building. Like, so the addition is actually still, the rear setback is still the 1.4 from the side lot line, because the rear of the wall.
Okay.
Like, does that
Okay,
make
so
sense?
that one is still 1.4, but to the one to the left is 2.1.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the part where
Okay.
we've changed to 2.1
Yeah,
and
okay.
might even push that a little further according to the arborist report.
Okay. So I just don't want just wait. So Peter or Antonio, how can we make it? Because you have the conditions. How can we make it that? Because the Dana is saying they are going to make it better. Can we make it in formally for that condition, whatever it mentions that condition? Unfortunately, I don't have the in myself. If we could change to whatever number Dana is talking about. So Dana, now is 2.1. What is it you are going to make it? 2.4, or what is it you're going to make?
Whatever the arborist requests, like if we have to do it 8 feet, if we have to do it, whatever we have to do to make that pass through because we still have the conditions of the planting of the arborist, so we have to maintain whatever the arborist says is how we'd have to push that house further in, right? So the arborist will determine that number, if that makes any sense. Like, it's
Yes,
definitely
yes.
not gonna be
It
shorter
makes sense.
than, yeah.
Okay, so Peter, I would say for that condition there, you would say as per arborist recommendation or as per the arborist report. If you maybe could put in that way for that condition, so that we make sure that when they're doing construction here, it's really per arborist report. But again, it cannot be less than 2.1.
That portion, okay.
Yeah, that portion cannot be 2.1. Unfortunately, we don't have the conditions here in front. Otherwise, we would have actually indicated there so that it's in writing, everybody knows. But this is being recorded, so staff, I think they're going to listen to this and get the right number, because that's what the one of the delegates was worried about. So just want to make sure that those distances they are still okay, like 1.4, and the other one will be more than 2.1. Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions from okay, Antonio?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just for committee's benefit, it's important that when a motion is placed, there is a numerical value to each of the variances. If for whatever reason the arborist report comes back and the variance is providing a greater buffer, that's more than okay. That can be changed. But if the variance comes back which demonstrates less of a setback than what's on the site plan, then essentially the applicant would need to obtain minor variance approval for anything less than what's being demonstrated. So as long as the applicant's aware that it's 2.1 or 2.4, that there needs to be a numerical value to that setback.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Antonio. I really appreciate it. Okay. So any other comments from members of committee in case? No? So I'll be looking for any motions. Are there any motions? Julian?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I'll move to approve minor variance application number MV-2024-31, subject to the conditions in the staff report and the additional conditions mentioned today.
Okay, thank you, Julian. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Chris is a seconder.
Sorry to jump in, Mr. Chair. We
Yeah.
do need a definitive value. So are we sticking with the 2.1 meters for the time being? And then should the, as Antonio mentioned, if the arborist reports require the applicant to go further into the property or further away from the property line, then, as it should. And but we do need a numerical value on that stated for record.
Okay, so when I remember we were talking now, we see 2.1, but we talk about 2.4, and Dana was saying could be 2.4 even more, but maybe Dana, can we give us a value which you think you'll be comfortable with? Definitely not be 2.1, 2.4 is okay?
Yeah, let's just do the 2.1 for now, and we'll move it back if we need to from the arborist.
2.1 is what is now. It means there's no change.
Yeah, that's with no change to the drawings that I just sent in today. The 7'4".
But I thought you were saying there will be a change to be better than that.
Just if the arborist required it. So if the arborist, like verbally, he said 8 feet, my property line, it was hard to tell where the property line was on that tree. So I was going based off the tree's diameter. We'll just stick with that 7'4" for now. And then we won't be any closer for sure than that. And we'll have to move it back if it's a bigger tree offset.
Okay, so let me understand the 7 foot 4 inches which you are showing on the drawing. That is a change. That is a change.
That's the change that I made,
Oh, okay,
just
okay,
after
okay.
talking to the neighbor.
Yeah,
and
okay, okay,
yeah.
okay. So whatever conversion in meters that is, I'm not sure, is it the 2.1? I'm not sure about the conversion here.
Mine converted to 2.2, but it could be
Okay,
mine's just
so
rounding it up.
let's take 2.2.
2.2 meters. Okay.
Peter, you want?
Sorry to jump in again, Mr. Chair. The town does make their own measurements. So the building department has measured themselves, regardless of what is provided on the plans, and it did come out as 2.1.
Okay. So we would say at least 2.1 meters.
Yeah.
Okay, Peter, is that okay? At least, so you have to say at least 2.1 meters. So it cannot be less than 2.1. Okay, so the motion for us is the the motion of approving this, and there's a seconder, and so we're going to see all in favor of this motion. Motion approved. So Dana, your application has been approved. And just to emphasize that this setback there, it will be at least 2.1 meters.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Chair and committee, have a wonderful night.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, just to confirm, who did the seconding of the motion?
The seconding was Chris. Julian
Perfect.
was the mover, and Chris Posinero was seconder.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we'll move to the next application. The next application is a minor variance application at the 15 Tyler Street, and the file number is MV-2024-28. The application. The applicant is requesting relief from the requirements of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to facilitate the construction of a 5-story mixed-use building with at-grade office and 5 residential units above. The vehicular access is off Temperance Street with parking at the rear. The following relief is being requested. A, Section 8.2 of the zoning bylaw 6000-17 permits a maximum height of 10 meters. The applicant is proposing a 5-story residential building containing a maximum height of 20 meters. B, Section 5.4 of zoning bylaw 6000-17 requires parking of offices at a rate of 3.5 spaces per 100 square meters of gross floor area, and 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit, with a minimum 20% of spaces provided to be set aside for visitor parking. Therefore, 10 parking spaces inclusive of a barrier-free parking space is required. The applicant is proposing a total of 7 parking spaces inclusive of the barrier-free space. Applicant's stated reasons for not complying with the zoning bylaw. As stated in the application form, the applicant seeks to provide rental units with the increased maximum height of the proposed building. Public correspondence, we have 1 supporting letter, and we have got 9 opposition letters. In conclusion, planning staff believe that the requested variance meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act for granting minor variances. Staff recommend approval of the requested variance subject to 14 conditions outlined in the staff report. So there are 14 conditions in staff report. So that's the application. I can see here we have the owner and the agent who would like to speak to this application. Are they present here, Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do have the owner here in the meeting, Andrew.
Hello.
Hi. So if you could let us know your name, full name, and the address, please.
Okay, my name's Andrew Risk, owner of 15 Tyler Street.
Okay, so do you want to speak to your application?
Yes, please. I've
Okay, go ahead.
my engineer is also on side. If he has any questions, he can address.
Yes, but he has to also introduce himself. We have to give us the full name as well as the his or her address.
Okay, I believe he's online.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have Andrew's architect online.
He's not online? He said he was.
Okay, so you can go ahead, Andrew, and whenever your architect is available, then you introduce himself or herself, like full name as well as the address before you speak.
Okay, that's fine. We're going to bring him online. We're just getting contact with him around, but I'll go ahead. So,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Andrew Risk, owner of 15 Tyler Street. The application of a minor variance application seeking relief for a building height and reduce the number of parking spaces for a 5-story mixed-use building with office space on the main floor and residentials above the units. 15 Tyler Street is located on the southern corner of Temperance and Tyler Street, just west of Yonge Street. It is designated in the Aurora Promenade, mixed use, and designated as downtown, and meets all aspects of Bill 23. So I first met in 2019 with the town with full support of this build. It got delayed because of the pandemic. So we put it off till then, till now to get it going. The newly adopted Town of Aurora's official plan 2024 developments within the Aurora Promenade, as noted in the staff report, the proposed development will also provide new housing for the community. The current 1-story residence is listed under Heritage Registration. However, it's been reviewed and there's no value of the building that's existing on the property as it sits. As noted in the staff report, my proposal permits a maximum of 5 stories as a newly adopted official plan. A lot of people are saying it's 6 stories. It's not a 6-story. We've already adjusted the top floor. There's a breezeway at the very top for the elevator to go up. So there's not a 6-story like everybody's thinking it is. There's a big misunderstanding with that. My understanding is the staff is in the midst of updating the area in the town to align with the official plan for the downtown designation, and that the Aurora Promenade and major transit system stations area is identified in the area. Reviews of the baseline maximum height provision, given this, my proposed max height is 20 meters, continues to meet and general intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposed office on the ground floor will be lived-in workspace for residents and for my family. And reducing the parking spots to 7 parking spaces, accommodating the resident development. So this 7 parking spaces has been there for 6 years now, approximately 6 years. There was a chiropractor's office working in there, and that parking lot was always full every day. So with the 7 spots we had existing, with what we're proposed now, we're still in line with the parking space we have. I will be making this building my future home for my wife and my family, also providing much needed rental housing in the neighborhood. Points of this building: it meets the official plan. It meets point 2, meets the zoning bylaw. Development of the land in consideration. This is a minor in nature. There's under the bill, there's 3.5 million homes that need to be built by 2030. And we're far off from that right now. That means we have to build a house every 4 days to reach that. I know there's a lot of backlash on this build right now. I started this in 2019. I had the town approved on it in 2019. It was never rejected back then, like some people are saying that it was not approved, and we never went forward because of the pandemic. And that's it for the moment. And I can answer anybody's questions if they have any questions regarding this.
So thank you very much. You are actually exactly 5 minutes, so we appreciate it. So you architect is not here yet.
Is
Just
he
in
underlined? He is
Through you,
online.
Mr. Chair, I do have Andrew's architect here online now, Peter.
Okay, so if you could provide us your full name and address, please. And since we are the owner already spent all 5 minutes, I'm going to give you maybe maximum 2 minutes. So whatever you're going to say will be something maybe different from what the owner said. Hello?
He's online.
Peter, is he online?
Questions, not speak. You guys agree? There's nothing.
Well,
Through you,
if
Mr. Chair, I do have the architect joined the meeting. However, he is muted. Peter, can you please unmute yourself if you have anything
you
to
tell
say?
him to unmute, please.
He doesn't want to speak.
Hello? Can you let us know your name and address, please? And I'm giving you maximum 2 minutes because your client already spent full 5 minutes.
Hello, I just got a text from Peter. He says tell him it's not unmuted. Maybe there's technical difficulty on your side because he's saying that he's ready to speak, but he can't for some reason.
Okay, do you think he's going to speak something different from what you
We can carry on and we'll see if he can join in a little bit. I just want to add one other thing because I didn't do my 5 minutes. I also talked to my engineer.
Okay, so your 5 minutes is over. So if you're going to speak now, it means your architect is not going to speak anymore because you are speaking the 2 minutes I've given to that your agent.
Okay.
Because we still have we have other good public
Okay, he says he's not going to add
waiting.
anything at the moment. It's okay. He's not going to add anything at the moment. He wants to hear whatever everybody else says.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Peter, do we have public delegates ready? Would like to speak?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I have 4 public delegations registered for tonight. However, I only see 3 of them on right now.
Okay, so if you can allow one at a time. Or maybe if you can allow all of them, so that what you have ask them to do is not repeat what the other person has spoken already. So whatever they speak will be something new or just an addition. That would be preferred rather than hearing the same things. Is that okay, Peter? If I'd allow all of them and then we'll have one at a time.
I won't be adding anything new to what Andrew just said.
Okay, so
I can give you my name, my full name and address right now.
So you are the public delegate.
Correct.
Okay.
Through you, Mr.
Can you
Chair,
give us your name?
Sorry to jump in,
and
Mr.
address?
Chair. Sorry, Peter is the architect for Andrew, not a public delegate.
Oh, you are okay.
You're the architect.
Okay, so I'm giving you only maximum 2 minutes, sir.
No, I'm not going to be adding anything. I'll just give you my name and address.
Okay.
Okay, it's Peter Del Grosso.
Okay.
At 4370 Steeles Avenue West in Woodbridge.
Okay. Yeah, probably you help answering questions. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Okay, so public delegates, Peter, as I said, probably if you can have them all here, it would be better so that they can hear what the other delegate has said so that they don't have to repeat the same thing. So I can see two faces there. Peter is the one who is the agent. I can see Tony. I can see Angela. Anyway, we can start with Tony.
Yeah.
So you are given 5 minutes to speak. So your floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, staff, members of the committee, and the rest of the public and the applicant and his team. Thank you. Good evening. I'm not going to speak too much about what I submitted, and also not going to talk about who I am, Mr. Chairman. I think you know who I am. And I think Peter Del Corso knew who I am as well from the past, maybe, because we may have dealt before. But I have almost 5 decades of experience here. And I'm not going to deal with that. I'm only going to use that as because of my knowledge of the process. And my submission in the letter is about the process. And I'll leave it as that. I think it's pretty clear about the submission letter that this process has disregarded the right process, which is site plan control. I'm going to leave it at that. Everybody should read it because it's regulation. Bill 23 has changed the rules, but it did not change the rules on mixed use. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear. Okay, so next one. Unfortunately, I will just concentrate on additional facts. These are facts. To provide additional comments to the committee and the public so they understand the process. The third-party rights to appeal under Bill 23 has been taken away. So we cannot do anything after this hearing if you make that decision, Your Honor, and the committee members. I want you to think that the reason why we're here is for you to consider deferring, dismissing, or completely, considering our notice that this is not the proper process to be dealt with. This is the reason I requested the notice of the decision in the event that appeal is made by the applicant. The applicant is the only one who can appeal a decision of this board, but not the objectors. So we requested the notice of decision and request that a party status at that appeal. I just wanted to make it clear also that our rights have now been dismissed under the new Bill 23. So whatever decision you make tonight decides to approve this application for minor variance, the applicant can go straight to building permit. This is a death sentence. I just want to let you know that. This is the end. Just want everyone to be aware that please take your time and think of the consequences if this is moved forward to this stage. At this stage, this is a deputation, but not acting as behalf of the agents of the number 11 and number 7 Tyler. They've been handing out this life sentence pertaining to their own property. The consequence is obvious in terms of physical, emotional, enjoyment of life, property valuation, which from what I see is totally not to their favor unless it's part of a larger plan that could make the project viable as an assembly of lots that can yield enough profit to be able to sell their lands and buy another home elsewhere. This is why I mentioned lacking block plan is what is very practical in any infill development, and that's never been submitted. Another typical in infill development is sensitivity to the immediate, environment, immediate residents. This is a sensitive residential area. We all know that there's a premium placed on new home ownership. And for anyone who wants to have their house or who has a house today will keep their house, okay? And they have children, they have grandchildren. And how do you expect, even if you do a block plan, to implement that plan if their neighbors are not going to participate? That means there's that wall beside them that has to be dealt with. And this is why it has to be subject to site plan application, not committee of adjustment. And I made that presentation in my submission. I've created even my own opinion. As you know, Mr. Chairman, I don't just create this. I've been here for almost 50 years. Okay, and the owners here today, they can attest to this statement that they have no desire whatsoever because they have their own children and nobody can afford houses these days, especially young kids. So why would you expect a block development and why would this be considered mixed use with a tail end starting first and the other side is heritage home? It doesn't work. It's not going to work. Therefore, I always believe too that the golden rule should be applied for you as decision makers. You know, we should treat.
So Tony,
Yeah.
you're up on your time, so I'll give you just
Okay, I'm just
a
gonna
few
say,
seconds just to summarize.
I'm gonna summarize that the submissions I made in my letter to you deals with process, and that should be honored. I'd like everybody to also understand that during the search of the OP, we could not find the consolidation. I had to speak to Peter to find it. And the maps on the planning counter is still the old map. This was not part of Promenade until Monday, we found out. So I suggest that we step back and put this aside. Okay, okay, I'm speaking, Mr. Andrew.
Okay.
And that we all have to be civilized about this and follow the process. It's important.
Okay.
Bill Trinity.
Thank you, Tony. We gave you more. You went beyond your time. So we ask other ones. Yeah, maybe later on you can come back.
Okay, I will come back later. But
yeah, let the others come. So just to remind you, you've got 5 minutes each, and we're counting. So I can see here next on my screen is Angela. If you can provide us your full name, please, and address. So we cannot hear you, Angie. We cannot hear you. Are muted.
Is it unmuted now?
Yeah, now you're okay. Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. My name is Angela Dowd.
Again, you have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, okay? Just know your 5 minutes.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I live at 31 Tyler Street in Aurora. I'd like to say we are not in favor of this minor variance at 15 Tyler. Several reasons. The site is far too small to accommodate a building of this size. Number two, where will all the patrons or residents of this building park? Parking is already a huge issue in this neighborhood. Also, the applicant has asked for a reduction in the amount of parking spaces, which will add even more pressure on already terrible traffic and parking situations in this neighborhood. This neighborhood has already had more developments than should have been approved for this area. The giant retirement home church complex at the corner of Tyler and Yonge, 70 townhouses at 45 Tyler, and the development of the building just south of Tyler Street on the west side, the town square expansion, and George Street Public School. How much more can you cram into this neighborhood? The residents who have lived here have paid taxes for many years and are already suffering from increased traffic, parked cars blocking their driveways, more water runoff from storms due to everything being paved over, reduced light from tall buildings, and the destruction of the quaint nature of the Victorian era neighborhood. We renovated our Victorian home 27 years ago. At the time, we were told that any construction on our home had to be a below maximum of 33 feet, mandated by the town of Aurora. Why is it now that 6 stories is allowed, or 5, as Andrew says? Regardless of whether the official plan allows us, a towering, skinny, 6-story building does not fit this neighborhood and honestly will look ridiculous beside small Victorian homes. Putting a 6-story building beside a 1 or 1.5-story house will result in a decrease in property value for the existing houses, block light from the west for these houses, and will add even more disruption and noise to a once quiet area. This building will put more pressure on our already stressed infrastructure in this area. The town of Aurora already has a shortfall of funds for the repair or replacement of its infrastructure, yet they are still considering approving builds that will further stress this infrastructure without budgeting it for the future. All of the houses in this neighborhood are 100+ years old. The Amica build to the north side of Tyler and Yonge has caused damage to many of these old houses. The town of Aurora has tried in the past to designate my house to preserve the heritage nature of the town. By allowing this 6-story build at 15 Tyler, further damage to these heritage homes will occur. If the town allows this build, it is contradicting its own mandate to preserve and protect heritage homes and neighborhoods. The town of Aurora has lost its vision for the downtown core. Promenade area was supposed to be restricted to 5 stories or below on Yonge Street. You have approved Amica build of 7 stories, which should never have occurred. And as it is a complete contradiction to your promenade vision, and now you want to approve a 6-story build that is not on Yonge Street, but is beside residential homes. The quaint nature that the town of Aurora had is almost completely gone. And the town of Aurora is continuing to destroy any beauty that is left here by continuing to approve these developments that are completely out of character for the surrounding areas. We oppose this build. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You're on time, 4 minutes. So next I have Bianca. So what I'm trying to do is you all speak, and then later on we'd have the applicant and the agent to respond. And if maybe there are other questions that I will ask town staff to address. So Bianca, if you can go ahead, give us your full name and address, please. Can you mute yourself? Unmute.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
Your
no
chair,
problem.
through your chair. My name is Bianca Moretti. I live in with my husband at 7 Tyler Street. We bought the home about 4 years ago. We thought of this as being a community where we could be part of a city with history and beauty and small town appeal. We understand that the nature of the town is changing. We're not opposed to development. We're opposed to sympathetic and sensitive development that preserves the nature of Aurora, and especially the village of Aurora. I wrote an extensive letter. I have to be honest, I was up all night, and I'm going to speak from the heart. So I'm a little tired. I have not had sleep in about 20 hours. And so I wanted to just bring up 4 really important points. Hopefully the considered members of this committee have read my letter in terms of perhaps different ideas from the other ones, but I wanted to stress that there are 4 areas. The vertical plane of a solid brick wall that's going to rise 60 feet, a foot or 2 away from Cindy Jewett's home at 11 Tyler Street, will create a barrier to the rest of the neighborhood. We are going to be in its shadow. We are going to be denied sunshine, and we will not be able to enjoy our own homes with a 60-foot tower next to our, I would say, less than 20 feet high homes, which are 1.5-story houses. I have real issues with the way that the design was made for the parking lot. To say that we have no issues with parking is disingenuous. We have street festivals, commercial activities, winter parking bans in the Amica building that will usher in 80 units and probably 150 people. Parking right now is abhorrent. We can never get it. We have to park blocks away, and there is no place for garbage removal. There's no place for snow accumulation on their property at 15 Tyler Street. And there is as well traffic issues that are already impossible to exit from Tyler onto Yonge Street. None of these things have been addressed. I also want to say one thing that Andrew had mentioned, that he was generously creating housing for an intense need for people who needed affordable housing. I'm going to tell you right now, whatever few minutes I have left, I'm sorry my timer disappeared on me, but it's counterproductive. We have a Victorian heritage home that's protected. Nothing will ever be built on that 2-story home at 5 Tyler. Then there is my house, Cindy's, and then there's going to be the small, skinny little building with a solid brick wall with no windows that will be seen from Yonge Street. We intend to live in our homes. Our homes have lost value. Who would choose to live beside a building? And I would ask all the considered members, I would ask through you, Mr. Chair, if you had to make a decision on a lot next to your own home, consider what it would mean to you to have a 60-foot brick facade with no windows beside your home. it's mind-boggling. I can't even explain it. What this should have been done was part of an assembly of all three lots, and I said it as well with the parking lot even behind us. They could have created a very sensitive 3-story, even 4-story, as long as it was graded and in a particularly attractive fashion towards Yonge Street.
You have run out of your time. Just summarize now. Just summarize
Summarize.
Yeah. Quickly, you've already gone your 5 minutes.
I ask you wholeheartedly to put this through the process where a block plan is considered. I ask you to be fair to the homeowners of Temperance and Tyler Street, and consider that we are part of the family of Aurora, and this building will divide us. It will create animosity and hostility for the next 10 years or more. Our children, both Cindy's and mine, are going to stay in our homes, and we will not be forced out by a 6-story building.
Thank you very much, Bianca. Thank you very much.
Thank you, your chair. Thank you
Thank
all.
you very much. Now we have the last one. Should be Cindy.
Hi. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, Cindy.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Give us your full name and address, please.
My full name is Cindy Jewett, and my home address is 11 Tyler Street.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to see a less hostile build that I think all points were made by Tony as well as Bianca. I'm losing a lot of overhead space. I've owned my home for 20 years. I've lived in Aurora for almost 30 years. And I was given the opportunity actually from my grandmother to buy my house at 11 Tyler Street. And that is my intention to do so for my children and my grandboys so that they have a place as I've been lucky enough to have a home. This is my neighborhood. This is causing me a massive amount of stress in trying to visualize and deal with this. And it just goes against what I feel the vision for the promenade is. It's not making any public sense. I agree that the vertical planes need to be done. I agree that parking is a huge issue. The lack of trees and greenery and what we're supposed to keep and respect in the neighborhood will be totally destroyed in that area as well. I'm not seeing that. This is the true vision that the town of Aurora has for this community. I sent in my opposition letter and I've made a lot more points than I'm speaking of now, but the parking, the density, and the scale, the deficiencies in the green spaces and greenscape, it's very, very disheartening. And I do ask that this be dismissed. I think I'm under 5 minutes.
Oh, yes, yeah, you are far under 5 minutes. You have taken 3 minutes. So thank you very much, Cindy.
Thank you.
Appreciate. Really appreciate.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Peter, do you have any other delegates apart from these ones? I think these ones I have them noted here. Do you have any additional delegates?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all the public delegations for tonight.
Okay, so I've been taking notes, trying to figure out which comments from the delegates could be addressed by town staff and which ones maybe by the applicant. So maybe I would ask you about the town staff. So town staff, I would classify them like this. Something about the process, something about lack of, let's say, block plan, which is part of the process. They were talking about related to heritage area. This now being being different, isolated, like you got one tall building and surrounding areas being small. Basically, they're talking about not matching the neighborhood. something about garbage collection, like lacking a garbage collection area. What about snow removal? Where are they, if you are having a plow, where are they going to be storing storage? Maybe this will be considered. Then the other one would be, I would add something about the trees landscaping, but that one could also be the owner addressing that. But for what I've just mentioned, Antonio, can you speak to this? And any other ones which you heard the delegates talking about, any ones which are comfortable to speak about on behalf of the town?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I could definitely speak towards process. So as before us tonight, the applicant did apply for a minor variance application. The minor variances are before committee. The process for a minor variance application is that the applicant submit for a preliminary zoning review, which was completed. The zoning review would identify the variances that are in need for the applicant's proposed development. A meeting is scheduled to discuss the minor variances at hand, in which the committee has the ability to approve, refuse, or defer the application. A planning report was completed by planning staff. As part of the report, there are an extensive list of conditions that are attached. One being that the owner obtained site plan exemption approval. I know there was a comment that there's not going to be site plan application. We have various site plan application levels at the town of Aurora. We have applications for a full site plan application, a minor site plan application, and a site plan exemption. The site plan exemption approval is a condition of approval of this minor variance, and as well as all the requirements as it pertains to trees, the applicant providing an evaluation report. So even if the application is approved at tonight's committee of adjustment meeting, the applicant must fulfill all the conditions that are attached to the report as presented to committee tonight before any final approval can be obtained. In terms of the process following the meeting's decision, if there's a decision to approve or refuse, the applicant would be the only person with the ability to appeal the decision if it was not in favor. So that speaks to the process. I know in terms of snow storage and all those comments, that's why we do have a condition of site plan exemption. Those are requirements that will need to be satisfied, and the applicant doesn't need to provide those specific details at the minor variance stage. That's why planning staff have the ability to condition approvals necessary. Back to you, Mr. Chair. You're on mute, Mr. Chair.
You're muted, David.
Yeah, sorry. Also, if you can just say a comment on the 6 versus 5 story, it seems to be somehow confusing. The applicant is looking at it as 5 and it's down, but the residents are looking at it as 6 stories. Were you able to speak about that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, for sure. So it is, so if you have the ability to look at the elevations, we classify it as a 5-story building. I know there is a mechanical aspect to the top of the roof, but that mechanical aspect does not classify as a story in the zoning bylaw. So therefore, the buildings department has classified this proposal as a 5-story building, not a 6-story building.
Okay.
Dave?
So Tony, wait first. We'll come later on. Let's see. Move this one first to have you comments and with others' comments addressed first. Then we'll come to the next round if there are any other additional comments, if you don't mind. Okay. So the owner, you heard what the delegates said. So I want you to speak to some of those concerns they had about parking, about congestion, about runoff, about how, of course, there are some conditions in the staff's report about snow removal, about streetscaping, Can you answer those comments or those questions?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
How we're going to address those? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so with the snow removal, once again, we ran a six-year chiropractor's office in there with 7 cars in the parking lot at all times. We've always had no problems moving the snow out of the parking lot and cleaning the parking lot off. Ever. We've never had a complaint. With the garbage disposal, we've already dedicated a spot over to the far right-hand corner for a garbage bin, which will be closed in with a gate and a fence around it. The landscaping, there is no landscaping on the property that needs to be addressed because there's nothing. The trees out front are going to stay. The large tree out front is going to stay. We're not going to be taking the tree down. There's 2 little cedar trees side by side on the corner of the building, which will be removed. They're not even worth saving. They're half dead as they are right now. So just 2 little cedars. I'm not too sure what else you're looking for, but there's no difference. If I were to build a 10,000 square foot house in this property and move my 7 kids, my 5 kids, and my wife and myself in there, we would all have cars. We're all adults. They all drive cars. There's no difference. I'm a taxpayer. I want to move my family into Aurora, and this building is the spot where I want to build my home, for my future home for my kids as well. I didn't take up the whole back parking lot to build this build. I kept it small on the same size as the existing building, the bungalow size on there that's right now, because I didn't want to block any sunlight and they didn't want to bring it back further. So that's what I have to say about this. It's just, I don't understand why people are so objected on builds around the area. Like Amica, I think is a great building for the area. And we fall into the promenade. And we followed the Bill 23. We followed the guidelines of the town. They asked us to do a daylight triangle on the corner last meeting. I addressed that. The engineer in the building department said he approved it. So I'm not too sure where else I can go with this. I can't hear him. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yep. So thank you very much, Andrew.
Yep.
So Tony, just second round. If you wanted a question, I'll give you 1 minute maybe to summarize whatever you have, just in case, before I ask the committee members to have comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did not see any conditions about the site plan approval required. That's one thing. And now it's being told that it is. Okay, number 1. Number 2, I went to the counter and spoke to the director a week ago, and Peter was there, and I was advised that this is the last approval required and they go for building permit. I also confirmed that with a lot of planning experts, that is the last required if the applicants or the town is saying that this meets the requirement of under 10 units, which we addressed already in my submission. It does not meet that because the bill said that it's only residential, not mixed use. So I think this has to be made clear that if you're going to approve this, it's a cart before the horse. You should not even be in a committee because you don't know what's going to happen in the build form. Okay, the height may not be affected or may be affected once they deal with a site plan issue. And then there's the widening, the daylighting triangle. Mr. Chairman, as you know, daylighting triangle is public dedication. They have second stories on the daylighting triangle. There's a lot of things that are site plan issues that must be addressed. Widening is one thing. You have no boulevard. We have issues with public utilities. There's a lot of things that must be addressed under site plan. So it's a cart before the horse. This should not be in the committee of adjustment. This should be site plan control, and we have to have a say under site plan control because that's not appealable under Bill 23. So we must be participating in the site plan control. That's all I have to say to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So I'll ask Antonio to respond, especially this condition here. I'm not sure whether Tony or other public member delegates have seen it. There's a condition of approval which reads that the owner obtain site plan exemption approval as it relates to the office component of the development. Now, Antonio, can you speak to this and how it relates to the site plan, please?
You,
So
Mr.
maybe
Chair, I could
there's
definitely
any
speak to that.
clarification you
Yeah,
have?
I could
Any
definitely speak
clarification
to
you
that.
have?
This condition was not a last minute addition. This condition was placed in the agenda when it was published last Friday. And as it reads there, following tonight's decision, if for whatever reason the committee approves the application, the owner would have to obtain site plan exemption approval, which is a site plan application with the town. As I stated, we have 3 different levels: a full site plan application, a minor site plan application, and a site plan exemption. All 3 levels of site plan are delegated to staff. And the site plan process is approved by the Director of Planning and is a process that is completed with the applicant and town staff. It is not like a minor variance application in which public notices are sent out, or like a official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, or any plan condominium. The site plan application process is done and completed with the applicant and staff if this application were to receive committee of adjustment approval. Back to you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you, Antonio. So just back to Tony, I just want to make sure that when you are finishing this tonight, at DC, we know it has been handled fairly. You have heard from the town what they are saying. Anything which you need to say there? Because that's your main comment is about the process.
Yes, I would like to
Yeah.
say that applying for site plan exemption is not the same as site plan control, because how can you do a committee of adjustment if the site plan in its built form is not acceptable in terms of policies of the OP, about angular planes, about disrespect for other neighbors? I followed this with Amica. Amica and us work very well. Do you see the stepping back of Amica on our street? You do the same thing on their street. Sensitive homes, you got to step back according to your own policy. That's not applied. Read page 4 of the staff report about 3rd and 4th story height requires 3-meter setback. That's not applied to this drawing. So I would wish that everybody understood, if you approve this as a death sentence, because they're going to go exempt, they approve the exemption, and then we have no appeal rights. It's you now that has to make that decision. That will be final because they're going to apply for permit. The rest are just smoking glass. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Tony. Okay, before we come to you, Chris, any additional comments from the
Yes,
delegates?
I'd like to. Yes, I would.
Just 1 minute, also 1 minute.
Okay. The Andrews believing that there was no. Can you hear me?
Angela. Is that
Can you hear
Angela?
me? Yes, Angela.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Andrew stating that there is no landscaping of consequence is because 3 or however many years ago, he cut down 3 huge, mature, 100-plus-year-old trees, plus a fence full of trumpet vine to make way for a parking lot. That's why there is no longer any landscaping. It used to be a beautiful backyard. Now it's a dead space. So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so regarding that, just to, this is not yet approved, but I can see in the staff's report that is one of the things which they expect to be done. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Anybody, what about Bianca or Cindy? And you want anything, 1 minute each, just to be fair? I know you are together there, so I can say 2 minutes, 1 minute each. We're not hearing you.
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. It is absolutely terrifying to me to have a brick wall of this magnitude surrounding my house. Again, this house is my home, my children's home, my grandboy's home, and there's no setbacks. It does not make any sense, and it's doing harm rather than do no harm. I guess that's my final appeal.
Okay. Thank you. Bianca?
I'd like to say that we are not anti-development. We are not anti-promenade. We would just like mindful and respectful development so that all of the towns people can enjoy the area. But as it was already spoken about, this is the equivalent of building a monster home. There is a protected heritage home to my east, and Cindy is to my west, and then there will be this 5-story plus terrace and elevator shaft, which is bricked right up to the top, overshadowing us. I cannot believe that this is not going through other channels so that we have a chance to discuss something that's more amenable. When Andrew says that this is going to be his home and he is bringing his 4 adult children to live in this building, this has been a home for people here for 20, 30, 40 years, and he has now put a blight on all their homes.
So thank you very much, Bianca. Now we have the members of the committee. Any comments or questions? Please. Chris.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do have a few questions.
Yes.
So one for staff, for Antonio specifically, and then 2 for the applicant or their agent. So Antonio, I'm just trying to better understand the word exemption in the condition. Does that mean that there is no site plan required, not even for the office component, or what's the situation there?
You, Mr. Chair, the site plan exemption is specifically for the office component. The site plan exemption application, the main differences between a full site plan, minor site plan, and exemption is that the site plan exemption does not require the applicant to enter into a development agreement. It's our least intrusive form of site plan, and that's a condition that we place. We don't believe that a full site plan application is required for the application, and thus that's why we impose the site plan exemption instead.
Okay, so I'm just thinking for members of the public to understand this, right? Does that mean there is little to no site plan for all practical purposes? Is that what you're saying?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, it's still a site plan process. In regards to whether the residents have any say to that site plan process, all site plan processes are done with the applicant and with the town. There's no public notices that go out, whether you're in a full site plan, minor, or exemption. Public notices are not sent out for site plan applications, regardless of the level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I'm just realizing obviously the town is fully supportive in the staff report. So right. I'm just trying to understand what would be part of that site plan conversation, if anything.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, the site plan conversation would ensure, like some comments were mentioned on snow storage, waste management, the entrance off of Temperance is adequate for our traffic engineering department. And I know our engineers have already reviewed the daylighting triangle with no issues, but that would be another process to just finalize some certain details that may have not been labeled on the site plan as part of this minor variance process.
Okay, thank you. That answers my first question. So I have 2 more questions. One of them was on the garbage. So I'm just trying to better understand, where's the plan for the garbage storage? Andrew, I know you said that there was a small kind of piece of property or section. I don't see anything on the site plan. Is that in a parking spot, or where's that happening?
Okay, I'm back on. Yeah, so the garbage disposal area will be in the would be in the west south corner. There's no parking there.
Oh, essentially beside Temperance. Is that
correct? Yeah, there'll be a fence around it for the garbage truck to be able to lift the garbage can up and then put it in. Yep.
Okay. Okay. And is there still enough space to get into that last parking spot?
Of course, yeah. I have a lot. I plow the driveway with my large truck and my plow, and I'm able to back all the way up to the back of the building and then right over to the fence.
Okay.
Maybe Chris, before you continue, Antonio, do you have a comment?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make it very clear for the committee and for all the residents in attendance tonight that with the waste management, snow storage, access off of temperance, that all needs to be appropriately labeled and reviewed on the site plan. I understand that the site plan does not demonstrate a waste management and snow storage specifically labeled. So those are all things that will need to be addressed. As part of the minor variance process, it's not a detail that can withhold the town from taking an application to committee, but our mechanism is to condition any approval to its fullest extent to ensure that everything is adequately could be serviced on the property based on the development at hand. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Chris, you can continue.
Okay, so yeah, I think the purpose of what we're here tonight as committee members is to look at the height variance request and the parking variance request. So in my mind, as part of the parking variance request, we have to make sure that these parking spaces proposed are functional. Full stop. So if there's something that's impeding a parking space, to me, that seems like a pretty valid question to ask and not something that should be sorted out later, but I'll defer to you on your judgment on that. My third question here to the applicant, I'm just reading something on the site plan. I guess it would be the eastern portion, right? I think the setback looks like 0.26 meters. I'm not sure if I have my figures right. I'm just wondering if that's even constructible.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Or Peter, my architect?
Oh, either.
I can answer that for you.
Peter will answer.
Peter. Yeah. Yes, it can be constructed. We can go right up to 0 lot line if we have to. It's not an issue.
Okay. I'm just thinking about what kind of cooperation would be needed from the neighbor with any tiebacks or shoring that they would need to agree to, right?
Yeah, we'll have some shoring probably that has to be agreed upon with the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I say that, I know that that's not part of the 2 variances that we're looking at, but I think Tony made a good point, and it was highlighted that if we do make any sort of decision on this application to move forward tonight, it goes to that stage. So I think it's worth highlighting that that's a major, that's a major concern and a major hurdle to get over. Even if something is moving forward, it doesn't mean that it would be constructible. So I'm just wondering if that's been given the proper consideration, given the conversations that have happened here tonight.
Chris, are you asking this to town or the applicant?
I can answer that. There's enough sideline to build on that side. When I renovated the house on the property that's existing, the building is going to be on the same footprint. So everybody has to remember staying on the same footprint. We had scaffolding, and we put scaffolding up to put the siding and the fascia and the eaves troughs and everything else all the way up, with no concern touching my neighbor's property.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any comments or questions from other members? Michael, Julian, Michael.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on to the applicant. I see there's a provision for a walkway. The walkway, what is the purpose of that on the site plan there?
The walkway is existing right now along the side of the building, which will remain. It's for anybody coming from the back parking lot that can walk up the side instead of walking on Temperance. It was designed when the parking lot was put in for people to reach the front door. It goes to the front sidewalk, and then you can turn and then go into the front instead of going from the rear door.
So it's blocked to the neighboring property, is that correct?
Sorry?
If there's a block, there's a fence to the neighboring property.
No,
correct?
you're probably looking on the other side. The sidewalk is on Temperance side. It
Right,
was designed with the parking lot at the back. It goes right up the side of the building that's existing and goes to the front sidewalk and then to the front door.
but I mean, the neighbor to
Correct.
your east, that walkway does not affect them. There's some kind of fencing there, is that correct?
That's my fence. That's a joint fence. Yeah.
I see somebody wave, not agreeing.
Sorry, what do you, I'm on, there is a walkway on my property along that side of that side of the building, correct?
Okay. Again, this may be for staff. I think there's some concern with the condition number 2, that the owner obtains site plan exemption approval as it relates to the office component of development. And I think Tony made some valid points regarding process and what we're looking at under Bill 23, as opposed to, a mixed use building as opposed to full residential building. And then I'm kind of uncomfortable with this property. A lot of what the town promenade looks at is buildings facing Yonge Street. This is set back further from Yonge Street. So we're not looking at under what the promenade on the official plan contemplates is buildings fronting Yonge Street. That's why you see Amica, it's facing Yonge Street, and it's set back further as you go back towards the older residential neighborhood. So I'm not seeing this. I'm seeing this particular building being proposed way back from Yonge Street. And then what you've got is, heritage buildings approaching Yonge Street, and then you got commercial components right on Yonge Street. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm not seeing the justification of, proper planning here, whereby you've got, a 5-story building way at the back end of Yonge Street, and then you got heritage buildings, which may never have the ability to be, rebuilt in this type of format because they're heritage. So I'm thinking, and I'm just asking staff, if one of the conditions 2, say that the owner obtained full site plan approval as it relates to the entire development, is that can the committee recommend that condition as opposed to the way it's written?
For you, Mr. Chair, if that is a condition, the committee wants to impose on the application as presented tonight, the committee has full power to impose a condition. Is that strictly your question? I know you mentioned it regarding the promenade, but in regards to the condition, the committee wants to impose a more stricter condition. It's within the committee's rights to do so.
So we can impose that condition and change it to say that the owner obtained full site plan approval as it relates to the entire development.
You, Mr. Chair, you can impose that condition. Planning staff have reviewed it. That's why we imposed and specifically says site plan exemption approval. But the committee wants to impose a full site plan application. It's within the committee's right. The property is within the Aurora Promenade, whether you're facing Yonge Street. There are properties on Tyler Street that are within the Aurora Promenade. The Aurora Promenade doesn't just cover Yonge Street. It's a conception. If you on Schedule D2 of our official plan, it shows specifically what is within the Aurora Promenade. It's not strictly buildings fronting into Yonge Street. So in terms of what the applicant can do, he's applied for the minor variance in height, minor variance in parking. Any additional conditions committee want to impose, it's within their right, and the process would move forward as it's approved with from tonight's decision.
Again, for the staff, condition number 3, that the owner obtain necessary clearance from Town of Toronto Council to delist the property from Town's Heritage Register. I see that as an issue in that, you know, the town recognizes that this property could be designated heritage. And at the same time, they've got other properties towards Yonge Street, the neighbors' properties that are heritage designated. So is that?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Mr.
that
Chair,
to me is an unfair advantage to this property if it's removed from the heritage, while those other properties are not. Because it limits those other properties to future type development, whereby, you know, they can get some kind of fairness in their property development proposals in the future. So I'm wondering, do the applicants have a say? Not the applicants, but the neighbors, do they have a say as to this heritage when they go to the town's Heritage Advisory Committee and make their objections known to them that, you know, maybe Tyler Fifth, the subject property should also be designated heritage? Can they do that?
yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, the property was reviewed by our policy planning and heritage team. The property has no cultural significance. We've imposed that condition because it's a, you know, it's a listed property and it needs to go to Town of Aurora Council to get delisted. That is a standard condition, whether you're a designated property or a listed property, that needs to happen. And that is the reason why we placed that as a condition. The applicant has the ability to apply for a minor variance before going to the Town of Aurora Council to delist this property. Town staff don't have the ability to withhold the minor variance application if he doesn't go delist this property beforehand. That's why we have conditions. That's why we impose conditions to its fullest extent to make sure that the town is protected and you know, any technical details on the proposal are being complied with. We cannot refuse a minor variance application because it hasn't been delisted prior. The process can all happen concurrently, and that's why we impose conditions to its fullest extent.
My concern is that if this committee approves the application as it stands, approves the minor variances, that, you know, it takes away from the neighbors going to the Heritage Committee and making their points known, right? Can they derail this project by going to the Heritage Committee and saying, no, you see, this is the problem. I'm having
Mr. Chair, I just want to be very clear on the process. If for whatever reason the application gets approved tonight, it needs to go to the Town of Aurora Council to get delisted. At just similar to tonight, like we have public delegations, residents can go delegate to Town of Aurora Council at the Heritage Advisory Committee. So that's a public process, just like the Committee of Adjustment. If for whatever reason, hypothetically speaking, it gets approved and the applicant doesn't complete all 14 conditions, the application does not pass. So for whatever reason, if Town Council doesn't delist the property, whether you approved it tonight, it's not going through. All the conditions need to be approved and they all have to obtain sign off from all the departments, from Town Council and from Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, from York Region, all the applicable departments. However, if Committee of Adjustment do not feel comfortable and for whatever reason approving the application, the committee has its own right to put a motion before on the floor to either approve, refuse, or defer the application, regardless of the conditions imposed. So that is up to the committee and their desire towards the application.
So you're saying the committee can say we want to defer this application on the basis that we want a decision from the town's Heritage Advisory Committee?
To you, Mr. Chair, I would advise we've already deferred the application. The decision should be made at tonight's meeting. The last meeting, the application was deferred based on the daylighting triangle. The town's cultural heritage, the delisting of the property. I wouldn't recommend deferring the application for it to go get delisted first. That can happen whether it gets refused or approved. The application is refused tonight. The applicant can still go delist the property at the town of Aurora Council.
But you're saying to me, I mean, I just want to be clear and just for the benefit of the neighbors and I just want to be clear. If the committee says we want to defer the application, and that's up to the committee. I'm only one vote, right? But if the committee decides to defer the application based on saying we want a recommendation or the Town Heritage Advisory Committee to whether they can delist it or not.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the deferral needs to be tied to why the minor variance does not meet the floor test. So if you're deferring the application because the minor variance for height, in your opinion, does not meet the floor test of a committee of adjustment application, then that's fine. To defer the application because you want the delisting to happen prior to the minor variance, I wouldn't advise of that. But then committee has its own can do so if they like to proceed that way, but I don't believe that's.
But we did defer it based on the daylight triangle,
which is a technical matter of the application.
Well, this is actually more than a technical matter. I mean, I didn't view this last time because, again, you know, it imposes.
No, this 3 years ago. I just want to be clear that this condition was in place at last meeting. All these the conditions, as seen today, were placed. So if we just can't keep deferring applications month over month. A decision should be made. If we're deferring it, the delisting will happen. The applicant can go delist tomorrow, even if you refuse it, and then they can apply next month with different variances. They can lower it by half a meter and still apply for a minor variance. So a decision should be made so that at least the residents obtain a decision and there's not, any more confusion on this application.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have any other questions.
So just to add there, before I go to Julian, so you have two variances there. One is about the building height, which is basically related to what Michael you're talking about the heritage matters and the surrounding, not maybe meeting the height of the surrounding buildings or residential houses which have heritage status. So it's related to that, okay? And I also just want to mention that depending upon whatever members will decide, there are two variances. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to approve both. You can deny one, approve another one, or deny both. So I just want to make sure people understand that that's the process. So, anyways, Julian, do you? Or I was seeing Peter. Peter, the agent. Were you trying to answer a question from Michael or something like that?
Yes,
Okay,
I wanted to
go
answer
ahead.
your question for Michael.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the heritage building for this one, we've already gone through heritage. This is not a heritage building. We've already gone through 6 years ago when we had to have the chiropractor to go into the office. So we had to renovate for the chiropractor, and we went through the heritage committee, and this is not a heritage building.
So, Michael, have you read the conditions in the staff report?
I mean, if you read.
Peter, sorry. Have you read the conditions in the staff's report?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, have you read the second? Can you, is it Antonio or Peter, can you again share that condition there? I know you shared. From what you comment is, I don't think it aligns that condition number 3 says. Condition implies that is part of the heritage. So I don't know. There's sort of your opinion is different from.
Can I answer that? The house is dedicated under heritage, but there's no value to the building. It's not. There's no. I've taken 4 awards in Markham for heritage homes. I restore heritage homes. I've been building and restoring homes.
Yeah, so we're talking about this one here, according to this condition.
Mm-hmm.
this condition implies that this building or is within the heritage area
Heritage area.
and it needs to be removed from it.
Correct. Heritage area. That's what it is. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, just trying to give Peter the chance to answer. So let's go ahead. Julian, do you have any? I think you can stop sharing. Julian, do you have any questions?
I see Antonio's hand is up.
Oh, okay. I don't see it.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to just make it clear. There's a difference between a designated property and a listed property. It's the property before us tonight, 15 Tyler is still a listed property under the Cultural Heritage Registry. So that condition is still applicable. They still need to delist the property. We've acknowledged that it has no cultural significance, but it still needs to be delisted. Designated is a completely different avenue.
Okay, thank you. Julian, go ahead.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll try to keep it short. I mean, I appreciate all the discussion that's been going on, and I also understand the concerns from the neighbors, but I think I need to remind myself when I'm looking at this application that we are kind of constrained to the four tests with respect to the application as put in front of us, which is A, the height, and B, the parking. And the other committee members have been talking about it. So I hear a lot of the concerns from the public delegates, but I have a hard time seeing how we have the jurisdiction to deal with some of those concerns. They're not exactly related to the bylaw, which we have to abide by. I mean, I guess if you're not happy with the bylaw, you would have to take it up with the province. And also, we kind of have to remove a lot of the subjectiveness from the analysis of the four tests as they relate to the height and the parking. So based on the staff report and the discussions we had at the last meeting, the height is well within the bylaw limits, and the parking, we had concerns previously, and the applicant has taken steps to address those concerns. So I guess my rambling isn't really a question, it's just trying to organize my own thoughts with respect to process. And I hear a lot of the process is a little bit confusing, as one of the public delegates has mentioned. But again, what we're focused on is the four tests as they apply to the two variances requested in the application. Thank you.
Okay, so any maybe Chris, second round?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on something that Michael said, because it was a similar thought that I had. I'm definitely very uncomfortable with the site plan exemption wording. I don't think that this is a situation that should be exempt from a site plan. So maybe we should consider either, I think you called it a minor site plan or a full site plan. I don't think that this should be a limited, or sorry, an exempt situation, in my opinion. So I wouldn't be supportive of that.
Okay, so me being a last now, my comments, I heard a lot from the town staff, the delegates, and the members of committee. I also had some concerns. I see, of course, like the staff's report and official plan that this height is permitted. But my worry is about the surrounding areas, sort of. My question, if I relate to other areas in Aurora, where let's say there have been new development, is different from others, the thought has been that, of course, maybe in the next 5 years, 10 years, all these individual properties, you can see they are actually be they'll be redeveloped, and they will see a trend. But in this area, I'm not sure where there's that trend of having the nearby properties also developed. This looks to be sort of on its own building. That's my own comment. My other comment is I'm looking at what worries me is there are a lot of conditions here which basically are related to a site plan. That's really what is I'm worried about. They seem to be really related to site plan. A lot of them, they're sort of related to site plan, things which could be achieved if it was a site plan application. Okay, so let me ask for direction from staff here. And the direction is on the things which other members have commented. I don't want to delay, but maybe the first one is, I would say, can you confirm that apart from these two variances, there were no any other issue which needed variances at all for this property? Setbacks, things like those, setbacks, or anything?
Mr. Chair, the variances presented tonight are the variances required. Preliminary zoning review was done. It's been reviewed multiple times amongst the meeting in October and now the meeting before us tonight. So those are the required variances for this application.
Okay. So the other question is, now I'm picking back on the other members. Are we allowed to change some of those conditions? Like the second condition about site plan exemption, or I heard from two members of the committee to sort of, because you look at some of these matters which are being talked about here, they are usually addressed under site plan. We understand about the province, this sort of under 10 units, but you got the, let's say on the ground floor there, sort of a bit of commercial office. Is there any possibility that we have the powers of asking that to ask that he should be asking for a minor, or how can we do it such a way that there should be something the developer should do, which would be somehow equivalent to matters, technical matters, which would be addressed if it was a site plan application, even a minor site plan application. Can you help us? How can we do here? If at all it's going to be approved at all.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, committee has the ability to amend a condition. So if you were to amend condition number 2.
Number 2 and number 3.
Number 2 can be amended if you request the applicant to obtain a minor site plan or a full site plan application. Committee has the right to do that. It's within your powers. For number 2. For number 3, can you provide some more clarity on what would need to be amended from?
Yeah, so here maybe I would defer to Michael. Michael, you had some sort of other opinions on this, which I was sort of liking. Do you think you could provide some, what do you think could be done if let's say we are going to approve both conditions? Both variances.
You know, going back to what Julian said, if we look at the variances, you know, we're going from 10 meters to 20 meters. That to me is not minor.
Yeah.
Well, having said that, I mean, I understand the ramifications of Bill 23, but then at the same time, I think one of the Tony has mentioned that probably relates to full residential buildings. And then at the same time, I'm not comfortable with the fact that, you know, I don't understand if the town says it's a promenade, you know, type of zoning and official plan. And how does it relate to the Bill 23? Is it full residential that we're talking about, or is it a mixed use? So I mean, that makes me uncomfortable trying to approve that. So to me, I would be more comfortable seeing the condition number 2 saying that the owner obtained full site plan approval as it relates to the entire development. So if that can be inserted into the conditions of approval, then I'd be more supportive of it. At the same time, I think that with number 3, I think the neighbors have an opportunity to go before council and before the Heritage Committee and say, we can't delist this property because it's unfair to our properties. You know, if it's a heritage zone, then maybe there should be some, town council looking at the whole block as opposed to just one small property at the end of the block as you come in from Yonge Street. So I'm just saying I can't support the first variance and even the second one. I mean, when he talks about the garbage disposal and the number of parking spaces, we're talking, a multi-story building, which we don't know how many people are going to be living in there and how many parking spaces are actually being required. We don't know that. I mean, so he's asking for a variance there, and I sort of am not comfortable with that variance either. So does it meet the 4 tests for me? No. So, but if the rest of the committee can entertain an amendment to number 2, the conditions of approval, then at the site plan stage, then people will have more of a say as to what goes on here.
Okay.
That's
Mr.
what,
Chair, just for the benefit of,
but then, I'm not putting words in the rest of the committees.
No, we're all voting separately. Yeah. Antonio.
through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to be abundantly clear. There is no discrepancies on the official plan designation and zoning of the property. The official plan designation has the property designated as downtown within our Aurora Promenade and major transit service areas. In the zoning, there's no discrepancies. It's promenade downtown. So the property is 100% within the downtown, both the zoning and the official plan. If the committee would like to amend the condition, as I mentioned earlier, that is within the committee's rights and power. The full site plan application process, minor site plan application process, and site plan exemption process, there is no public notification. That is completed with the applicant and the town, regardless of the level. If committee feels more comfortable with the full site plan application, they can impose that. But the site plan application is delegated to planning staff. So site plan applications do not go to town council. So regardless of the level, it would be delegated at a staff level, being the director of planning and development services at the town of Luna. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, the amendment should read that the owner obtained full.
I think you're jumping now, we're going ahead. So we cannot make a decision in terms of what needs to be done and so on. That will be later on when you're voting. Whoever's having a motion, then the motion will include whatever. If people, whatever motion it is, then they have to propose those as part of the motions, if at all. That's what I would say. Let's not go and jump as if we're making a decision here or influencing others and so on. I'm seeing Julian, you want to comment or question?
Yes, I do have a question to town staff. Could you briefly explain the difference between a simple site plan application and a full site plan application?
You, Mr. Chair, referring to the minor site plan and the full site plan?
Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
So the full site plan application, the main differences are, the application fees are larger in full site plan application. In terms of the process, the applicant would submit their application form with their full technical architectural drawings and supporting documentation. That would then get circulated to town internal departments, external agencies such as York Region and the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. Once all parties sign off on the application, the applicant would need to enter into a full development agreement with the town. The development agreement consists of clauses that the developer must oblige by, a lot of securities as it pertains to engineering, parks, agreement fees. So it's a more intrusive agreement. Whereas the minor site plan agreement follows the same process in terms of circulation and obtaining approval, but the agreement process is substantially less intrusive. Provides a perspective, a full site plan application agreement is about 60 to 80 pages, whereas a minor site plan agreement would be about 4 to 6 pages max. So it's just the intrusivity between a full site plan and a minor site plan. So those would be the main differences.
Okay, Chris?
So first of all, thank you. I think that's really helpful. That was an amazing question, and it's helpful because none of us had that context. And I think just knowing the concerns that were expressed and how intrusive the actual development will be, I can't see how anybody could feel comfortable not recommending at least a full site plan approval, even if we did consider that. I'm not suggesting that we would, but if it were to go forward, that feels like, at minimum, at least to me, the responsible thing to do here.
Okay, any last comment from Michael before we proceed?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Chris on that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, so we are going to be voting. I think we will look at each variance because we had the different comments on that. We're not going to look at the whole application. We'll look at each variance and so on in voting. So now if we would have motions, any motions on the variance application A, and this is regarding the building height. Any motions? Folks, we have to make a decision, folks. We have to make a decision. I think Mr. Grosso, the time has now passed. There's nothing to discuss. Now our time to do to make a decision. So, any motion, Michael?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I move to approve Part A, Section 8.2 of the zoning bylaw to permit the maximum height of 20 meters, provided that there's a change in the appendix, the condition be changed.
So which conditions and how they should be changed?
Yes, so under Appendix A, conditions of approval, number 2, that the owner obtained full site plan approval as it relates to the development.
As it relates to the development, the whole development.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And anything else? You said that's the only condition, or you to be changed with your motion?
Well, number 3 is also there, so I'm comfortable with the listing by Heritage. So that's the only change I would propose.
So what are you proposing? Okay, you're also proposing for 3 not to be delisted, not to be removed from Heritage. Is that what you're asking?
No, to retain number 3 as is, no change.
As is. Okay, so the only one to change is the number 2.
Number 2, that the owner obtained full site plan approval as it relates to the entire development.
To the entire development, okay. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Before we continue, Mr. Chair, I think Peter had something to say.
Oh, okay, I didn't see him raising your hand. Okay, Peter, do you want something to say?
Thank you,
Which Peter are you talking about?
Town staff.
Okay, yeah, okay. Peter, go ahead. I didn't see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the sake of keeping it simple and keeping it so that we keep everything in line. Are we able to do one motion for all of the requested variances? So we don't have to split it up, especially if you're adding a condition or amending any conditions.
I'm saying yes because I'm reading from the views of the members. My views, I was looking at it as if maybe the 20-meter height versus 10 is something maybe someone not comfortable about because of being very tall compared to other buildings around and within the heritage area not matching. I would see that coming in up relating to the other heritage areas and the in terms of the sight lines. That's how I was reading. That's why I decided that maybe we should maybe split in case maybe the one about the building some may not be comfortable with, but they'll be comfortable with the parking.
Right. So as a committee member making the motion, they can move to approve of the building height and also deny the parking variance all in one motion, as well as include any amendments to any of the conditions as listed as in the staff report.
Okay, so we can have one motion, okay, because these are two different variances. That's why I'm looking at it. I'm looking at them as two different variances, just like we have retreated some of the variances where I've looked at each one of the variances.
That's
but
correct.
But we can do that. We can do that.
Right.
So just the members have to. So what you have to do is we can start again, and then be able to say, okay, you are approving number A, you are refusing number B, or you are refusing, you are approving number A. Okay, you are refusing number A, you are approving number B, or you are approving both. So there are those three scenarios. Once first scenario, you say yes to A, you say no to B. Second scenario, you say no to A, you say yes to B, and the last one is you say yes to all of them, or maybe fourth one is you say no to all of them, which to me is similar to doing one at a time. But is that what you are saying, Peter?
Yeah, pretty similar. For example, just throwing it out there, for example's sake, maybe Michael says, or the motion would be that conditions or variance A and variance B be denied, or variance A be approved and variance B be denied, subject to the amendments to condition 2 of the staff report, where it states X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. It's the same. Yeah.
And then should the committee members fully agree with that statement of that motion, then they can vote in support, or they can choose to deny that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead now. Are we all clear about what motions we can have? Chris?
Yeah, I'm trying to better understand procedurally, like obviously we can do that, but how does that work in practice? Like you need both variances approved for the project to go ahead, would you not?
Yes, but you can refuse one and you can come back later on another one. You can change. Let's say if you're refusing building, you will reduce the building height. And if it's parking, then they'll have to find maybe another parking space or something like that.
Okay.
So basically, that's what it means. If you are saying no to building height, it means you're not okay with the 20. What it means if they're coming back is to reduce that height. If you say about the parking, you're saying no to parking, it means they have to increase parking. They have to find a way of increasing parking.
So it could come back again? Is that what we're...
Yes, it will come back again, yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can provide some additional details. Needed.
Can you say again, Antonio?
I can provide some additional details in terms of processing of the motions. If committee,
Okay, can you go ahead?
For sure. So as Peter outlined it perfectly, a motion could be put forth, approving A and not approving B, subject to the condition as amended to require a full site plan application. The variances don't need to be approved together. They don't need to be refused together. They could be approved on an individual basis based on the motion Peter just provided as an example. If one variance is approved and the other variance is not approved, the applicant has the ability to appeal the variances that were refused if he would like, or he can amend his drawings to conform with the bylaw. So there's no implications on approving individual variances, but the motion should be placed as Peter outlined.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so are we all clear? Okay, so now I'm looking for any motions from members of the committee. Okay, Michael, go ahead.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, I can move a motion to approve A with the amendment to the condition. And then someone else can make a motion to approve B, the parking variance.
No.
No, you got to do them.
No. Yeah, so okay, to me, I looked at the one I asked is similar, but it's different versions. It was easier to do one, you finish and go to another one. But what the staff are proposing is you have one more, you have the motion here for both, whereby you're going to say, let's say A is approved, or both of them are approved. That's the one. Or both of them are not approved. Or the other one is the one is approved, one is not approved.
Okay.
So you have to say at the same time.
Right.
And then if there are any conditions, and then we have seconder and the voting.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, I move to approve both variances, subject to the amended condition number 2, which would read that the owner obtained full site plan approval for the entire development.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Julian is the seconder for that motion. All in favor of that motion? Motion carried. So so both the variances have been approved with the condition that all the conditions in the application apply, but with the one condition, condition number 2, that the owner should obtain full site plan approval as it relates to the whole development. To the whole development, not the office development, the whole development. Okay, so that's what it is. Just to recap, the application, both the applications, both the variances have been approved with all the conditions in this staff report, but with the condition number 2, it should read that the owner obtain full site plan approval as it relates to the development of the full development, not just the office, but full development. So the owner, thank you very much for being with us. Your application has been approved as indicated, and thank you very much for the delegates for your participation. We really appreciate this. I know Peter, Mr. Peter De Grossi, you have been raising. I think it has passed. It has passed already. Oh yeah, it's passed already.
Yeah, that's no. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. So thank you, staff. Thank you, members of committee for all this, the discussions, going through this difficult application. And thank you all the delegates again, and wish you all a good night. Thank you. Now next is any new business? Is Peter around? Any business, Peter? Okay, so I require a mover for adjournment of the meeting tonight. Michael, as a mover, so the